With the news of Patrik Laine winning a fresh start, could he join the plethora of Finns in Carolina?
You're Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a Friday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you to the everydayer for making this your first listen of the day, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, talking everything about your Carolina Hurricanes. I'm your host, Zach Martin. I am the Carolina Hurricanes beat writer over at the Hockey Writers. I do some AHL coverage over at the Caller Times. I am the co-host of the Surgecast, which is a weekly Carolina Hurricanes podcast, along with all of my duties here at Locked On Hurricanes. Got a fantastic Friday show for you guys today, as we're going to be talking about Patrik Laine and how he does want a fresh start out from the Columbus Blue Jackets, where he could possibly fit with the team if the Hurricanes do go and inquire and maybe find a way to acquire him as well. And what could a possible trade package look like? Where I did talk to some connections with some Columbus beat writers up there who do cover the Blue Jackets and also some hosts from other shows as well. And just seeing what could a possible trade look like and how Martin Necas who might not be part of it, and that could still work for the Hurricanes to get Laine from the Jackets. But before we get into all of that, have you ever dreamed about becoming an AHL GM and managing your hockey franchise? Well, now you can with Hockey Ultimate GM. It's completely free, and Locked On listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using promo code LOCKEDONNHL in the game store. To download the game, just visit hockeygm.app or look it up in the App Store. Ultimate Hockey GM, start your dynasty today. So, like I said at the start of the show, Patrik Laine we got the news Wednesday night, kind of rolling into Thursday, that Patrik Laine has presumably already talked to the Jackets, mainly John Davidson, about possibly wanting to move on and wanting a fresh start. And you really can't blame him for wanting a fresh start. It's just been a situation in Columbus where he just wants a change of scenery, change of pace, stuff like that. And from what I've been hearing from other writers with the Hockey Writers and also with the Hockey News, the guys who do a lot of coverage on the Blue Jackets, is the fact that he talked about Laine actually had a meeting with John Davidson, who's moved up within the Blue Jackets organization, but at the time was the president of hockey operations, which is now taken over by Don Waddell. Apparently, Laine told Davidson that he wants a fresh start, and the Jackets said that they will try to find a way to make a deal work to give him that fresh start in another city, depending on where it is. And on Thursday, the news came out that Don Waddell, when he went on to Daily Face-Off with Frank Saravalli and all of them, he said that he has a meeting planned with Laine and his representatives to try to get an understanding of what's going on and maybe see what they can do for the Jackets and also for Laine and his camp as well. So it seems like signs could be pointing to Laine leaving. It's just who would be interested in him and what could possible deals look like and stuff like that. And looking at just how Laine, his career overall, was a former second overall pick in the 2016 draft. He was picked after Austin Matthews, who did go on the Maple Leafs. And at 18 years old in his rookie season, he had 36 goals and 64 points in 73 games, played almost 18 minutes. He played 17:55, finished second in the Calder voting. And he was on the NHL All-Rookie team. Following season, played his first full season of 82 games. He scored 44 goals, had 70 points. Following year, 82 games played, 30 goals, 50 points. And then in 1920, he got 28 goals for 63 points in 60 games. So overall, the goal totals were kind of going down a little bit. He was still consistently getting points for Winnipeg. And of course, a lot of people were, even back in the 17-18 season, what really surprised was the fact that he led the league in power play goals. He had 20 that season. And a lot of people coming into Patrik Laine coming into the league, a lot of people were thinking that he was going to be the next Alex Ovechkin, which was the ultimate goal scorer and stuff like that. Early on, you could see like he's got 36 goals, 44, 30, 28 in his first 4 seasons in the league. Yeah, there's a little bit of a dip off, but I mean, like I said, points-wise, he had over 50 points his first 4 seasons, had over 63, had over 60 twice and hit 71 time in 17-18. Putting up goals like crazy. Shot totals 204, 241, 245, 226. You're still looking at shooting percentages of 17.6, 18.3, 12.2, 12.4. So the goals were still there. His shot totals were still up there. And his average on time on ice was, it was a little bit of a drop off from his rookie year to his second year. We go from 1755 to 1629, but then jump back up to over 17. And then his 2019-2020 season, he had over 19 minutes and, over close to 19 and a half minutes. And, it's one of those things where it's just, he got traded to the Columbus Blue Jackets in the middle of the 2020-2021 season, only got 24 points a year, but he only played 46 games. And then, his last 3 seasons with the Jackets, 21-22, he got 56 points in 56 games. That's really, I mean, a point per game guy. He got 26 goals in the process, played almost 19 minutes. He was like 10 seconds shy of averaging 19 minutes a game. 5 power play goals, only had 24 penalty minutes. He was only a -7. 22-23 at, his age 24 season. He was injured, but still managed to get 22 goals and 52 points in 55 games. So another almost point per game guy, averaging 19 minutes a game. And then this past season where, he only played 18 games, he did get hurt after a, looked like a possible questionable play by William Lagesson of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Knocked, kind of almost like he almost slew-footed him in a sense, but it didn't look great. And, Laine got a shoulder injury and then tried to come back. And then, unfortunately, it didn't work out. He did end up getting surgery during the season. And then he also joined the Players Assistant Program back in January. So it's one of those things where a lot of fans, I get a sense of, is the fact that he's only played about 50% of the games over the last 3 seasons combined. But I mean, injuries stink. Guys have injuries. It happens. It's weird how the narrative when you talk about Patrik Laine is that he's not good. He doesn't really score a lot. He's always injured, and injuries happen. I mean, it sucks when guys get injured, but if you look at the goal totals, he's still scoring over 20 goals a season. Yeah, it's not the 30, 44, 36 that you saw in his first 3 seasons in the league when he's 18, 19, 20. But, he still scored 28 in his 4th season, scored 26 and 21, 22 his first, full-ish year in Columbus outside the 45 games he played the year before. But then, he still scored 22 goals last season, and he's still putting up over 50 points. Outside of the 2020-2021 season where he got 24 points, every other season he's gotten over 50 points. Yeah, this past year he only played in 18 games, so he only got 9 points. But you look at it, going back to his rookie year, 64, 70, 50, 63. That 2020-2021 season where he got the 24, but then he gets 21, 22, 56, and then last season for 22, 23, 52. So he's still he's still a guy who gets 50 points a season. Yeah, maybe the goal total isn't where people thought it was going to be because he was supposed to be, like they said, everyone was comparing him to the next Alex Ovechkin. And that's a kind of a huge ask for a kid who's coming into the league at 18, who's, you're talking about one of this generation's greatest goal scorers in Alex Ovechkin, and you're comparing him already to he's the next Ovi. Ovi's almost like a one-of-one type of guy. So putting that kind of pressure on a kid who's a 2nd overall pick at 18 from Finland, that's pretty tough. And I mean, like I said, any team right now would love to have a guy who's scoring, 50 points a season and over 20 goals. Like, it's one of those things to me where it's like, yeah, maybe he has had a lot of injuries over the last few years, and it's kind of a drop off there. But like I said, goals wise, 36 his rookie year, 44 his sophomore year, 30, 28. He had that 12 in that weird trade year, and then he had 26 and 22. So, like I said, with his points, every year, points wise, outside of that one weird year, over 50. Goals wise, over 20. Outside of that weird trade season 2021, and then of course this past season where we only played in 18 games. But other than that, he's perennially a 20 goal scorer and a 50 point guy. And that's just when he's healthy. When he's healthy, he's really good. And I think if you're any team right now, would you want to take that risk? I think you would take that risk. But of course, in segment 2, we're going to talk about his contract and how, what could possibly fit, around the league and also with the Hurricanes. Because I know the contract is kind of like the big, kind of weird situation for teams to be in when you look at his cap and all that stuff, and how could a trade look like and how could it work and stuff like that. So we are going to talk about possible where he could possibly fit with the Canes and talk about, just overall why his contract might give teams some hesitancy. So we'll get to that here in a second on a Friday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Hey, Locked On Hurricanes fans. I want to take a moment to bring up one of our partners, the mobile game Ultimate Hockey GM. Ever dream of becoming an NHL GM and managing your hockey franchise? Do you think you can run the Hurricanes better than any current GM or past GM for the Hurricanes? Well, your dream can come true, and this game is most definitely for you. Manage every strategic aspect of your team, play through the seasons, and lead it to glory. Hire the right coaches and staff, trade players or draft picks, navigate through free agency and the draft, all in a challenging and realistic game world. As a Hurricanes fan, there is no offseason. GMs are constantly making moves at every point of the year to improve their team's chances, and that's why I think you are going to love this game. Ultimate Hockey GM is completely free and playable offline. Play on the go as you want and when you want to. By the way, Locked On listeners get 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo code LOCKEDONNHL in the game store. So make sure to check it out. To download the game, just visit hockeygm.app or look it up on the app stores. Ultimate Hockey GM. Start your dynasty today. Welcome back to segment 2 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So like I said at the end of segment 1, we're going to go over, where Patrik Laine could possibly fit with the Hurricanes and why a lot of teams might be hesitant on making a move for a guy like Laine, despite the fact, like I said in segment 1, where he's a guy who's going to get you 20 goals a season at least, and at least 50 points a season as well. And we're going to start off with what's giving these teams a sort of a hesitant, should we or should we not go for him? And the thing that's kind of the biggest thing right now is that his current contract that he signed with the Columbus Blue Jackets, and at the time general manager Patrik Laine, this contract that he signed with the Jackets was signed back in July 22nd of 2022. It is a 4-year, $34.8 million deal, and it also has modified no trade clauses for the last 3 years of the 4-year deal, which does have a 10-team no trade list. Now, the thing is, the signing bonus of the contract is $2 million, and the base salary is 7.1. However, the annual average value, the cap hit AAV, is $8.7 million. And I think that's kind of what's the biggest question mark for the teams, is the fact that you're looking at 8.7. That's a lot for a guy who, like I said, it's good. He has the points. He has what you get out of him when he's healthy. And I think when you look at what you can get, but also the fact that he's been kind of injured prone in the last 3 seasons, he hasn't played over 60 games since 2019-2020 when he was 21, where he played 68 for the Winnipeg Jets in his last full year with them. And he's played 56 and 55 over the last 2, and then 18. That's kind of the big question mark for a lot of these teams is the fact that you're looking at a cap, hit that takes up 10.55%. The 8.7 is a lot. If you're looking at a guy whose contract, if he was hitting that OV level or where you're getting 30, 40 goals a season, I could see where an 8.7 works out. That's the one thing with Jaromir Kekalainen is the fact that he kind of, at the time, would you consider it an overpay to keep him? I'm not sure. It's just, it does look like a lot when you see how, if we look at revisionist history, do you make that contract with how Lions playing? Who really knows? You're kind of getting how he was with the Winnipeg Jets. So I can see why they wanted to pay him, because you saw what he did with the Jets. And then it's been kind of some weird thing that's going on in Columbus where, you get John Gaudreau, it's not really working out. You get Laine, it's not really working out. Maybe it's just because of the fact that it's maybe the coaches, maybe he's gone on to roster construction. It's just a weird situation when you're the Columbus Blue Jackets and you look at that team, you're like, okay, on paper these guys should be good, but somehow it's not working in terms of maybe goaltending isn't there, maybe defense isn't there, overall roster construction. What's the head coach doing? What's the GM doing? It's just a weird thing to be in if you're looking at a team like the Jackets and you see these guys that they have and you think, okay, this team should be better. So I think that 8.7 is what's the contentious part of why some teams are kind of hesitant on making a move like that. And I know not a lot of teams want to have retention salaries on their books, but I think if you're trying to give Laine the fresh start that he wants and trying to do right by him and just be able to be like, okay, it hasn't worked out. We're going to, you got your 10-team no trade. Let's see what teams aren't on it. And if there is a certain team on there, would you be able to waive it? Stuff like that. So who really knows? Could you possibly, will he waive it? And if there's a certain team that is on there that he's okay with going to now, or is there a certain team that's not on the 10 trade that's like, okay, let's go make a deal happen? If I'm the Blue Jackets, you're going to have to retain salary, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's going to be 50%, and then you're looking at $4.32 million when you look at the 50% cap. When 50% retention, and I think at $4.32 million, I think there's teams who would be able to take that contract on for 2 seasons. Of course, add some sweeteners and stuff like that, or or there's a team who's like, okay, we know we have certain guys that are UFAs that we might not bring back, taking on 4.32 for a guy that we know can score 20 goals, can get 50 points a season when he's healthy. Maybe we could take that risk. And I think if you're the Carolina Hurricanes, you could make that trade work. And now if you're talking like 2 years ago, you might be looking at a Martin Necas for a Patrik Laine, which we'll go over some possible trade packages in segment 3. But I think where Laine is at now, he's missed a lot of time, played 18 games this past season, only played, roughly around 52, 56 the last couple of years. You're taking a guy who's got some injury history, didn't really play a lot this past year. Would you take that risk at 4.32? I think you would, because I think there's a possible trade where you can make it work to where, okay, you can go and get Laine, you bring him in, he can fit in the top 6. I know a lot of people are like, his defense isn't really that great. He's got a lethal shot. He's a shot guy. He's good for the power play and stuff like that. But his defense is it's okay. It's not the greatest, but like, does that work with the system of Carolina? And I think you could make it possibly work with Laine in Carolina, because he's got that instant chemistry with Sebastian Aho, because they, with those two and Jesse Puljujärvi, they were probably one of the most lethal lines in the World Juniors back in 2016 when Finland won the gold. Those 3 guys combined for 17 points or 17 goals. And you're going to get chemistry with Sebastian Aho. Laine could easily slip into the top 6, and depending on how you want to look at it, you could do like a Jarvis, Aho, Laine line, or you could do Laine, Aho, Svechnikov, or you can make it some more, or you can make it work where Laine is on the second line, or however you want to play it out. So he could easily fit on the top 6. He does play both wings, You know he can put up goals. You know he can set the assists too because he's gotten over, you know, when you look at his points, he's gotten exactly 30 assists the last 2 seasons in 55 games and 56 games. So yeah, he's still putting goals in. He's still getting the assists. So if you put him in the top 6, I think he instantly gives you an extra boost of a guy who's a good playmaker with a strong shot. He fits into the high volume shooting that the Hurricanes do. You could easily slot him on the power play. Is his defense okay? Yeah, I would say it's manageable. You can make it work. I think if you have a guy like that who can be that shooter that the team needs and be like that sniper, that lethal shot guy, I think he could be that guy that fits with the Hurricanes. And like I say, he's got that chemistry, Sebastian Aho. We got all the other Finns there. I know right now there's no idea of what's going on with Teuvo Teravainen because he's a UFA, but if you do bring him back, possibly, if you don't, let's say the Hurricanes don't bring back Gensel, and there's a way that you kind of re-sign Teravainen into a reasonable contract. I definitely could see a world where you have like a Teravainen and possibly Laine on the same line together, but you also have all you have those you got those two possibly together, or Laine Aho, but you also got just Jesperi Kotkaniemi there. So you've got all the Finns. You're gonna have a lot. You're gonna still have more Finns on the team. I think that's gonna help Laine with the fact that he's gonna be around a player that he knows in Aho really well from the World Juniors, and you also got all the other Finns that are still on the team. I think just the culture on Carolina and who Rod Brind'amour is, I think Laine could really thrive in that system and in that culture in Carolina, where you're going from the, I wouldn't say chaotic, but a really up and down hockey sense in the hockey of what's going on in Columbus to a more structured area that is the Hurricanes. I think Laine would be, I think you could see that change of scenery for him where he's in a culture and a family setting and just in the area with the Hurricanes where he could thrive on and off the ice with the team, blends in well with the locker room, possibly, really works well with the Finns, especially Aho, like I said. I think that's a fit could work. Top 6, power play, stuff like that. He gets you that lethal shot that you want. And if you make it work to where the Jackets do take, if they retain half of his contract, I think you could take him on at 4.32, and he fits into the team well. I think that's a move that the Hurricanes could possibly make, and I could see one where you won't have to give up Martin Necas. And I wrote an article for the Hockey Writers about it on Thursday, which I'll leave a link in the description if you haven't had a chance to read it yet on the YouTube or on the podcast. I'll make sure on the description for the podcast, I'll leave it in the comments and description area. You could see where it could work, where a possible deal could work to bring him in, where Necas isn't involved. I think he'll blend in well with the top 6. He'll get you that lethal shot. He can work on the power play. Get him at 4.32. I think there is something there for the Hurricanes. And I know a lot of people question, will he fit in the system? Some people think he won't because of his defense. That's something you can work on. Like I said, he's got all the other Finns there as well. I think if you put him in a proper culture and a proper area, and like I said, nothing bad about Columbus. They got a good culture over there too, and it's just a lot of up and down with them. But put him in a more structured hockey area and more hockey culture of, not even in a sense of hockey culture, but just like an overall family setting dynamic of the Hurricanes where everyone's pretty close. And what you get in Carolina, I think he would really thrive with the team. And like I said, I think there's a deal out there where you could get him where Martin Necas isn't part of it. Because I know a lot of people said, oh, Necas for Laine. I don't see that one being done because what the Hurricanes want is star for star. And I think the risk of a Laine is not that star for star quality that they want. But I do think there is something possible where the Hurricanes could get him. So we are going to talk about what a possible trade package could look like for Laine here in a second on a Friday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back to a segment 3 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. It's like it said at the end of segment 2, a lot of speculation, maybe a Martin Necas for a Patrik Laine trade, but I do believe there could be some trade packages that the Hurricanes could send to the Blue Jackets to get Patrik Laine, and where Jesus might not be involved. Now, like I said, I did write an article for the Hockey Writers, which, like I said, I'll leave in the descriptions of what a possible trade I think could happen to where the Hurricanes could get Laine without having to give up Necas. And I think a possible trade that could work is maybe looking at someone like Ryan Suzuki, who is kind of shuffled down into the Canes center system. He did recently re-sign with the Canes for a 1-year, 2-way deal, and it could be something that could work. Where it's someone to send back to the Jackets if they think that they're in the middle of a retool or a small rebuild, but there's someone that they could look at in terms of a center in the future as depth. It's very possible. He's only making $775,000. He is 23. I think that's someone you could look at a possible trade. And then if you look at, maybe you throw in some picks, maybe a third and a fourth, or maybe you go Suzuki in a second. Maybe a Suzuki in a second could work for getting Laine from Columbus, or maybe Suzuki for a third and a fourth, because the Jackets don't really have a whole lot of leverage in knowing the fact that Laine does want to leave, and now you're kind of at the mercy of what teams are willing to give up and stuff like that. And I don't know what your asking price is, because I talked to some guys who do cover the Blue Jackets as beat writers for the Hockey Writers and the Hockey News, and they said that it could be a situation where it's mainly draft picks and someone who could be potentially ready in the near future, who's young and could work for the team. If you want to look at possible wingers, if you're not looking at maybe like a Ryan Suzuki, you could maybe look at Maxime Comtois. I don't know how good he would be for a possible move. You could maybe look at Dylan Coghlan. The Jackets might be looking at some defense. So Dylan Coughlin's an RFA. Comtois is also an RFA. So maybe you look at those guys as possible moves. You could maybe look at your prospects down in the lower down too, if you want to look at that as well. But I think maybe a Dylan Coghlan could work if you want to package that somehow. Or like I said, you could look at a Ryan Suzuki where he's making less than $1 million. He adds a set. You're adding a centerpiece, or like I said, you look at Maxime Comtois if you're looking for a winger. But I believe a deal that could possibly work out best is maybe a Ryan Suzuki and a third and a fourth, or maybe because the Hurricanes have 3 6-round picks, maybe you look at a third and a 6 in some way. Or I wouldn't be surprised if the Jackets are like, okay, if you give us Suzuki, we'll take 50%, give us a second. So, a Suzuki and a second rounder could work for Laine. It all really depends, but I think if you add some Ryan Suzuki to the deal, you're sending a young guy back who could possibly fit with the Jackets in the future, get some proper center depth and stuff like that, and you're also adding a couple picks to it. And I think if you're the Hurricanes, Suzuki and 2 picks, or Suzuki and 1 pick if it's the second, I think you can make that work in some way. If the Jackets want Coghlan, maybe you can throw Coghlan in there too somewhere, or he's the main piece. I don't know, but I think with the fact that there's not a lot of leverage for the Jackets, the asking price is not going to be what they want, and I just don't think that. I don't think the Hurricanes are going to view Laine as that star in, star out like they do for Martin Necas. So I don't know if that Laine for Necas deal could possibly work, unless there's some assets that the Jackets throw in or some way it makes it work to where the Hurricanes say yes to that. But I do think there is a deal possible where you get Laine, but you're not giving up too much. You're not giving up your high-end prospects. You're not giving up Martin Necas. You're not giving up a Jack Drury or anyone else I can think of that could possibly be it. So you could look at a Suzuki or a Coughlin or both somehow, or Suzuki or Coughlin and some picks. So there are some possible ways you can make it work. And honestly, if you ask me, I think Patrik Laine would fit perfectly with the team. And I think there's a way that the Hurricanes could get him for $4.32 million, and also getting him in a trade that won't break the bank and break your team in the near future. So let me know what you think in the comments on YouTube. Let me know, like, would you want to get Patrik Laine? Do you think he would fit with the team? And what possible trades could you possibly see that could work to get him to come to Carolina at 50%? Because 50% has to be the main thing for a deal like this to work. So let me know, would you want Ryan Suzuki to be it? Would it be Dylan Coughlin? Or who else do you think could be possible trade options for the Kings to go to Columbus to get Patrik Laine? And would that possibly work for the Jackets side of things as well? If let me know on social media too. And do you think that's something that could work? So if you want to follow me on social media, you can follow me at OneSureZach. You can follow the podcast at L_Hurricanes. If you click the link tree in my bio, you can find where to find all my articles at the Hockey Writers and all the newsletters I do for them as well. Also, all my AHL coverage at the Calder Times. If you want to check out my other podcast, the Searchcast, where you can listen and watch, there's links for those. And for this podcast, there's a link to where you can listen to this podcast on all podcast platforms. If you leave a 5-star rating and a review, I'll make sure to read that on the show. And if you're on the YouTube side of things, make sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification so you don't miss any shows, and click the thumbs up button and let me know if you like the episode. Like I said in the comments, do you possibly want to see the Hurricanes make a trade for Laine? What do you possibly fit, and what possible trade packages could work? If you also share the show with other Caniacs, hopefully they come every dayers just like you. And if you, hopefully they subscribe as well, because we are over 880 subscribers on YouTube, and we are on the road to 1,000. If we get to 1,000, I might just do something special for you guys. But that will wrap up today's episode. Hope everyone enjoyed it. Hope everyone enjoys their Friday, and hopefully everyone has a great weekend as well. Unless something happens, we will come back to you on Monday for the next week worth of shows. If something does happen, we might have some coming out on the weekend as well. But if not, make sure to be back here for Monday when we go back into our season grades and all that good stuff. So, like I said, hope everyone has a good Friday. Hope everyone has a good weekend. And until next time, as always, let's go Canes.